I coughed.
Yeah, you did.
And Jesus wept.
I'm looking at these white folks. I'm like, why you want your kids to be dumber than ours?
Why do y'all think a lot of Black Americans aren't really considering moving to an African country to like start businesses?
Ghana has outlawed foreigners mining their gold there.
That's Hollywood. That's different from the hood.
Like, we are in the Civil War now.
No, no, and hell no.
What parts of this should we keep to ourselves?
I'm saying there is a challenge when a company feels like, I got a problem with Black folks. It looks like Target got more out of that photo than the people did.
But I also think that our tactics have to be more sophisticated.
There is a whole generation of folks who exist right now, y'all, who don't know their privacy rights because they've made everything so public.
Angela's not crying, by the way.
I'm sorry. I should talk quieter and it'll be more soothing. This is my Andrew voice.
Somebody's getting it on.
Everybody.
Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice
Media. I'm about to go
Okay.
turn these on.
So I'm going to do that again.
Notification.
And the first time I'm going to hear from you is after I welcome everybody home.
Bet you up. Bet it up.
3,
Bet it up.
2, 1.
Welcome.
Welcome home, y'all. This is episode 76 of Native Land Pod, where we give it to you straight, no chaser, and we talk about pretty much everything. I am here with my co-host, Andrew Gillum.
What's up, everybody?
Welcome home.
Welcome home. Welcome to my home.
I know.
I was born and raised down here.
We are in Florida, you guys. Angela, I will tell you in transparency, is on her way.
Yes.
She is juggling 1,000 things.
Working herself into the ground.
Yes. She got stuck in traffic. And so she is joining us shortly.
So
yeah.
you're aware, the ladies are here to attend a conference.
Yes, we're attending a conference.
For women.
For Black women. Kim Blackwell hosts a conference. We were here last year, all three of us. Yes, and Andrew was quite the hit on stage.
No, y'all were quite the hit. And more importantly, the audience was the hit.
They were. That was one of my
stage.
favorite shows.
They were
so you guys
incredible.
remember that because we did a live show that day. Also, there will be a special guest joining us, which you will see later at the very end.
Yes.
So tune in for all of our viewers. You will see this. Our listeners, we will describe to you
It's going
who
to be
the guest
gripping.
is. Yes,
It's gonna be gripping. Literally.
Andrew.
Yeah.
You know, we never get to all the questions that we have when viewer questions
Right.
send us in. So we have a viewer question. I think they sent it in like a week or so ago.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great question to
Okay.
get the discussion started. So
Let's get it.
producer Nick, let's roll that clip.
What's up, Native Land Pod? Welcome home. What's up, Tiffany, Andrew, and Angela? My name is Kojo. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, born and raised West End. Anyways, I got a quick question. Why do y'all think a lot of Black Americans aren't really considering moving? Well, majority of Black Americans aren't really considering moving to an African country to like start businesses and all of that stuff. The dollar goes so much further. You can take some savings that you have and just move. But I mean, I feel some of y'all's politics and stuff like that. I feel you for sure, Tiffany, because I might tell these white people the truth to their face. It annoys me when they don't. My point is, why do y'all think that is that a lot of Black Americans aren't? Because I know we built America, but we've never ran America.
I love that question. And right on cue.
The expert is here to answer the question.
I want y'all to know I have 8,000 degrees. It's hot. And look at
not.
Angela.
She bought Seattle with her.
She got
Oh,
on a
I
winter
didn't.
coat.
It's hot. It's all get out.
I'm
outdoors.
hot. I'm sweating. I probably got
It's
pit
not
stains.
Y'all, we warned in the opening that Angela is like running it at both ends. She's burning the
candle at both ends. Let me hear you. Let me hear you.
Burning the wick, burning the candle from both ends.
What did
And
you say the first time?
no,
I
that's
don't know. I wanted to hear how he was going to box the
because she didn't
phrase.
say it right. So
I said burning the candle at both ends of the stick.
Oh, that is not right.
that's
Oh, what
that,
is
that
it?
is what it really does mean, burning it at both ends.
So how do
she
you say
said
it?
of the stick.
Of the stick, of the
stick.
candlestick,
Oh,
of the
okay.
candlestick.
I'm
But
not
it's,
sure.
it works. Fine, we're here. Speaking of, I thought we were talking about sayings because I bought my book of.
Oh, we should get
I
to
bought
that.
my book of sayings.
No, I didn't bring my book.
That's okay. We have
We all got
one.
it.
But before we get into that, I just want to let you all know that Angela's joining us, and we just heard a great viewer question about why don't more Black people move to Africa. I have a lot of thoughts.
You've been quite a few to the continent and to many countries. Most of my trips to Africa have been North Africa in the sort of
really?
Islamic part. Yeah.
Oh.
Egypt, Cairo,
I've been to Morocco.
Petra, Morocco. Yes, but I think what he's talking about are probably some
West
of the
Africa. He's in
West and
Nigeria.
Southwest. Yes.
So Angela and I went to Ghana for. It's gonna make me laugh. You so
Bet you
tired.
did.
She just looked like.
Oh no, I thought you was gonna say
No.
you ate something.
No, I didn't.
Okay,
No,
you did.
I didn't.
You ate great food.
I will address those comments in a moment. But Angela and I went to Ghana for New Year's in 2022, and just had a most amazing time. But let me say this about moving to Africa, because I love the question and I love the concepts. You know, you've talked a lot about expanding our imagination. I honestly think that's a question of privilege. You know, there are a select few of us who have the means to do that, who have the family ties to do that. You know, I could not just up and leave my mother here, you know, who I help support. My brother is here. Like, those things would be challenging. A lot of people don't have passports to even do that. So I think we have to keep that in mind. But I will say that was one of the themes, the pronounced theme that I felt in Ghana with the people there, especially our tour guides and people who were really pouring into us with knowledge. It did seem like the sentiment was, it's so strange that you all choose to live in America, that you choose to live alongside the descendants of your enslavers when you could come home and live here.
You know, I was going to ask you, based on your experience, what your experience has been with folks from African countries that are populated, overwhelmingly by Black folk, how they feel about that. Because when I hear it, I feel a little bit like maybe how folks felt with carpetbaggers. You know, the folks who sort of come in from outside, and now you're gonna come here and you think you're the one we've been waiting on to open a business,
right,
to start a pharmacy, to do this, to do that. So I've got a little bit, but once we get over that, and so long as that's not an issue that, you know, that we'd be confronted by, I think most people think of the continent of Africa obviously as a foreign place. Haven't been, don't have relatives that knowingly have relatives there. And it's a big move to start a business anywhere.
Yeah.
But if your experience has been here in America, you're not likely to uproot everything and take a chance that you can move to another country, start a business and be balling, left and right overnight. That's just not going to be the story. But for those who do, and to the extent that it's done in the right way with respect for the community, I say, go for it.
Yeah.
Angela, you have thoughts on the move, the shift, the great migration?
Because it is happening.
The greater migration.
What is very present for me right now, even when Tiff was talking about her mom, like, I can't go to the continent. I don't know, we have my mom is being treated at the second best cancer hospitals, in the second best cancer hospital in the country. I don't know. I'm not saying that there aren't remedies and aren't solutions for cancer treatment on the continent, but the unknown of that is more than I can bear. My dad is not leaving Seattle, okay? And I think what is also in my heart is, like, I know that also there are pharmaceutical drugs and other things, herbal remedies, naturopathic remedies on the continent that, regardless of what kind of treatment they are more affordable than here. So I see the positives and the negatives. My mom has to get these white blood cell injections right now to keep her white blood cell count up, because chemo suppresses your white blood cell count and your ability to fight off disease or ailments. And so does immunotherapy. She's getting both. And her injections 2 weeks ago were $10 with her insurance. This week, when we went to get them, or no, it was last week. The week prior to that, it was $10. Last week when we went, the guy was like, we're going to have to get another medication. I said, why? He said, it's $900 and something, right? So I'm like, the what they're trying to do to humanity in this country is crazy. And I do want our people to go somewhere where they can be safe, or where we're appreciated, or welcome, and all of that. But there are all these conundrums that we have to deal with, especially as we age. So I guess what I'm going to say is, young people, if you can, go while you're young.
Yeah, I think that's real.
Now.
But I think the most important thing to me that you said is about the healthcare system there. We just don't know what is health insurance like. It's obviously they have qualified doctors and treatment, but can we, as people who are expats, who are not citizens, can we go and get that healthcare? Will we have to have private insurance?
We should ask them that. These are good questions.
Yeah. Well, it's different, obviously in each country.
There are also different questions you'd ask at different ages.
Was Ghana in that
Yeah, because Ghana is, if I were going to move, it would be 100% to Ghana.
The fact that we started the consideration around access, affordability, healthcare, I think is a bigger indication of where we are in life and our ages right now. The sandwich generation, you're raising young ones. I know this well. In fact, literally left my house this morning. My mama was upstairs and the kids were, getting them ready for school and whatnot. But a lot of folks have parents that they're caring for, or increasingly beginning to take on more responsibility. And you got little ones that you're trying to raise. I think the questions will likely be different depending upon where you are in life right now. Young folks who are unattached might look for a little bit of adventure and willingness to try something new. Because you're only taking care of yourself, you don't have to have all the money in the world. And because you're young, as the statistics go, that you're generally healthier. So you don't have to have such a reliance on that system. Access, yes. A reliance on it, probably not like we would going to see a doctor, on regular checkups and whatnot. So different stages. And then folks who have already established successful businesses here, or have had ideas or have been in industries that they feel like, oh God, okay, looks like either the supply chain or maybe the demand for this thing is going to be greater on the other side of the world. So there are a lot of considerations. I'm all for going. I just hope we don't get over there and act like Americans.
Yeah,
where
we can become the gentrifiers.
That it's like our standard and our expectation is this, and therefore
sense of
this
entitlement there.
Yeah, it's
and
like,
that's when they look like you move like white folks.
Yeah,
move.
exactly.
Yeah.
We talked about this. Can black folks also be oppressors?
Yeah.
You picked the question.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the comments were saying, but I think universally we could all probably point to an example of that kind of abusive trait of this hegemonous, toxic sort of situation emerging. And I hated every international trip I took as an elected official as part of those sort of groups. I was on many occasions very embarrassed, and almost every time at the end of the night, the countries we were visiting, which were largely brown places, if you will, would ask me, like, how do you do this? Like they have their own sayings and they do with it. It was just interesting to me that it didn't matter where I went at the end of the night as the only black guy in the delegations.
Yes.
It was seen the locals would come around me.
Hey, chocolate drop.
And it's like, how did you achieve that there?
Yeah.
Or do you ever want to leave there? Those kinds of things.
Yeah.
They were trying to flash him with the phone.
Right.
Yeah. Blink twice if you were hostage.
Making sure you were okay.
Yeah.
Well, we met a lot of expats in Ghana. Just because we're talking about this, I didn't know we were going to be talking about this today, but just this week, Ghana has outlawed foreigners mining their gold there. Which I'm like, about time, because they have pillaged and plundered
For sure.
that continent. And the price, if y'all are watching the markets, gold
it's
is a
premium.
commodity. Right,
It's a premium.
exactly. So I would like to see, and I know a lot of people who are building property there, and, just a lot of Americans who have found peace there. I felt that way. When we were there, we all wept. Of course. When we saw the history and what our people had gone through. But we also had a really good time. Like we had some of the most, that's when I stopped eating meat. We had some of the most amazing meals in Ghana. We stayed at a beautiful hotel. We just had a great time. So I don't want anyone to misunderstand what we're saying about moving to Ghana. I think people should explore moving to the continent.
I want to get property there.
Do you really?
Yeah.
In Ghana or
Yes.
just, yeah, I think that would be amazing.
I think I think Hawaii should have done this as part of its negotiated agreement to become part of America. There are a lot of European countries that already do it, where you cannot own the majority share of a business if you are not a citizen of that country.
Yeah.
So if you go to many places in the Middle East and you say, I want to open up a suit shop, and my suit shops are renowned everywhere, well, you got to have a 51% majority owner who is of that country in order to own a business. Otherwise, the government has to buy into it.
That's a good idea.
And make that decision. Yes, because what happens is folks come up right from up under you. I think across many countries in Africa, the most prestigious right on land is not to the owner who owns the land on top. It's to the folks who have resource licenses, resource access to what happens underneath. Their requirements, their demands take precedence even over the folks who own the land. These mineral rights that exist, the same thing Trump was trying to negotiate with in Ukraine. And so you have
The
folks,
shakedown.
yes,
That wasn't
you
a
have folks
negotiation, it was a shakedown, yeah.
You got folks who own property, but they don't own what's beneath the property.
Yeah.
Some corporation XYZ owns it and can go in there and drill and change the whole landscape of where these folks live. So I hope they are as protectionist as they need to be to ensure that, again, those suppressive and white supremacist tactics and antics don't re-infiltrate the way that these countries are led.
Yeah. Well, Hawaii does have some programs where the local AAPI community, like if you're Hawaiian born, you get a discount on things. So that is one territory that has been gentrified.
Oh, yeah.
They have brought up all the property. So, I mean, the same things that we're seeing in our inner cities across America, like that is happening in Hawaii as well. And they are taking active steps to stop that. So I don't know.
Donald Trump is trying to have it
all
his way. But one of the slapbacks or clapbacks that I appreciated in these last couple of days,
slapbacks is not a thing.
Not at all. But clapbacks, okay.
Clapbacks, me, I make up sayings.
Yes.
All the time. So does Tiff,
They've been
apparently.
around for a long time.
At both ends of the stick. I was
Yeah,
like,
that's true too. But one of the knockdowns that I appreciated was Harvard basically saying no, no, and hell no.
Yeah.
To all of the administration's demands with regard to their ability to have say in admissions, teaching credentials, degree programs, what type of targeted research an institution does. Basically, they were going to be demanding what they did, obviously, of Columbia. Similarly, is a bending of the knee of the institution and the ending of any version of academic freedom as it exists. The hallmark of our system of education, part of that hallmark, one is that teachers, particularly after they are tenured, can't be fired for their views, for their teaching style or orientation while in the classroom, for their political views outside of it, or even in the class, they can write op-eds, author them, so on and so forth. And this administration wants to, we already know it, squelch all opposition.
Yeah.
Any contrarian view, any opposite saying. And Harvard, so far as I can tell, along with a number of law firms that have taken a stand.
Thank God.
Yeah.
not that many number.
But the truth is that
More to
Harvard's probably the only one we can call
extorted.
out in higher education right now.
So far.
So far. And again, we can't ignore the privilege, obviously,
Correct.
that Harvard has to be able to make these kinds of decisions. The endowment, I think they've got an endowment that's
They have a
larger than
multi-billion-dollar
13
endowment. You and I, we both,
We
not
both-
at the same time, but we
yes.
taught there for a semester. And I heard this idiot saying that he taught there and he was treated like a pariah because he's a conservative. And it's so ridiculous that they don't recognize Harvard is not this liberal institution of leftist extremist thought. You know,
Not at all.
there are a lot of challenges at the school that students are confronting. And what concerns me about Donald Trump even going after these institutions of higher education, it is right out of the dictator's playbook.
Sure it is.
This is precisely, I think it was Putin who said wars are not won on the battlefield, they're won in the classroom. Modi of India has targeted universities. Bukele has targeted universities. Like dictator after dictator has gone after classrooms and controlled
Yes.
thought.
Yeah, because they don't want you thinking.
Right.
And to the
exactly.
extent that they want you thinking what they are teaching you to think.
Yeah.
That
Orban, that's what I was saying. In Hungary, Orban in
Victor,
Hungary
yeah.
has also, I think, attempted to privatize universities.
it's classic because if you can tell the people what to think,
Yes.
then you start to tell them how to
Yeah.
think, and all the actions that flow from it, you'll recognize that it's largely going to be in submission to government, right? To oligarchical rule, to whoever's in charge. They're going to teach us that the reason why we don't have what we think we ought to have and what we think we ought to own is that by divine birthright, our divine right did not entitle us to it.
Yeah.
And if you teach your people that over time, you could, there is a whole generation of folks who exist right now, y'all, who don't know their privacy rights because they've made everything so public posts, public pictures, how you're feeling in a moment. They wouldn't know right now how to fight back around a First Amendment challenge. Like, do I not have the right to say and speak what I believe?
Or even confront it in real time with representatives of the state. Like, how do you interact with them? I was trying to find this quote, which I just found, but I also wanted to point out, and I am going to embarrass myself because Andrew, you'll tell me how to pronounce his name. Pinochet?
Oh, Pinochet.
Yes, Pinochet.
Yeah.
Not Pinochet.
Right.
Pinochet.
Pinocchio.
What's that?
Pinocchio.
Angela for the win.
Well, he was a Pinocchio.
Yes.
Pinochet in Chile was also a person who took over universities
He
and
ran as a outsider, bringing in the voice of the regular people, which is generally how they start.
It is all the same. And when you see this, the similar patterns, it is frightening. But the quote that I was trying to look up while you were talking is from our own Carter G. Woodson, who of course is one of the founder of Black History Month. But he says, if you can control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his action. Yes.
Send him there.
Yes.
Send him there. If there is no back door, he will create one for its special purpose.
And our own American history.
That's right.
I mean, this is not the first time that we have banned books, but also even the idea of banning books, that is straight out of Nazi Germany.
Sure.
So the idea that there have been ceremonies where they're burning books. I mean, it's just a weird thing, but also it's dumb because I'm looking at these white folks. I'm like, why you want your kids to be dumber than ours?
They don't.
Like, don't you want your children to know the real history of America? Don't you want your children to know the authentic story of the American Revolution? Don't you want them to know how the Constitution came to be?
Never want history to
want to be the
record
narrators.
what the oppressed have done.
Yeah.
They don't. The worst thing the Bible could have done was given us a David and Goliath story.
Yeah.
No one wants it reported that the poor guy from nowhere, of no name, of no background, of no privilege or wealth or title can beat the biggest, tallest, baddest, richest, wealthiest, most connected thing in the room.
Yeah.
Because that could inspire an uprising of the proletariat.
Which I predict might happen as we see the rise of populism, because it's a global issue. And so I want to encourage you all again out there, if you pay attention to what's happening across the globe, you see there's nothing new happening here in America. Other continents have been dealing with this for quite a while. Angela, you've been trying to get in.
I was just going to say, we were having a conversation about, because I think it's not just about Harvard or education. It's anybody that has the audacity to think differently than this administration will be targeted. So particularly those who have the audacity also to protect like our civil rights and civil liberties. So we've been having some conversations about what they have the ability to do. And I won't say who, but a lawyer among us who is brilliant.
You?
No, I wouldn't do that. I might be a little cocky, but not that cocky.
Angela, this was sourced, by the way, by me.
But she provided a list of things that nonprofits can do to survive in this moment. And I got to be honest with you. One of the first things was that the president does not have the ability to unilaterally revoke any organization's tax-exempt status by law. That's the key word here, or key phrase.
Yeah, obedience to the
The
law.
The president is prohibited from directly or indirectly influencing tax-related decisions of the Internal Revenue Service. Meanwhile, this man is doing this every day.
Every day.
So I think that I'm concerned that we keep trying to prepare a response that would work in a time where someone was actually obeying the law and not deliberately trying to break it and break systems. Someone who will be like,
out the barn.
The Supreme Court rules, and he's like, oh yeah, we're going to follow it. But they're doing something completely different. So I just wonder what protection really does look like in this era for our schools, for our institutions, for our organizations, for human beings.
For us individually.
Yeah, for human beings.
That's right.
Right? So I'm saying if it's not business as usual, I keep saying this to myself, we have to stop responding with a business as usual response.
Yes.
But to me, what does that leave us with? War?
Yes. I think so.
Civil?
Yes, the Civil War did not begin with the firing of the, first musket or bayonet or whatever. Like, we are in the Civil War now. I mean, I don't think it's gotten
Lord
to that.
Jesus.
But don't you feel that? Don't you? I feel that way.
Yes, I feel that, but I keep wanting not to feel that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I ain't built for war. Like, what you want me to do? Like,
I disagree.
Yeah, you're
I think we are. I think it is our.
I don't want to go to war.
You cannot want it, but I really believe
we
are built for war. Right. That's
but
my
I don't
point.
want to.
Yes, because what does a war look like?
Yeah, like like our people have suffered enough. I'm tired of suffering. And it's not even me. I'm tired of watching the suffering of our people. Like, even right now, and this is tangential, but it is important because this is my response to the battle. My response to the battle has been to join in coalition with every organization he would probably target, all of the people he would probably target to do this State of the People thing. First the marathon, now the power tour. I am doing everything I can, and I'm working alongside people who are doing everything they can because we don't want what he's offering. It is our way to summarily reject it and to provide an alternative. And it still feels like that might not be enough.
Yeah, I agree.
And like this, I think now I'm going to sound like Tiff, where she's been discouraged. It's like, if we're here to prepare you, if we're here to show you, like, if Twitter goes down or Instagram, because all of these hoes were at the inauguration in his face. If you don't have any of those tools, what are you going to do? How are you going to mobilize? We're implementing those things so you're connected. If you don't sign up, if you won't join in because you don't like who's leading, if you mad because you didn't get to teach a workshop, like, what are we doing?
I think that goes to the whole conversation about the movement and leadership, because in every movement it's been that kind of strife.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, you look at how
the ego.
I'm tired of it.
But I don't know that it's always ego, because I look at Stokely, how Stokely was kind of coming for MLK a few times. And I don't think it was Stokely's ego. I think Stokely felt, no.
You don't think any of it had to do with, like, I'm telling y'all his tactics are off, my tactics are right?
Is that ego?
A little bit.
It is.
Okay. Maybe I'm
you presuppose that your way is the right way.
That's right.
It presupposes that what
And
you're
it
doing
doesn't
is
mean
right.
I feel I have opinions about people's ways, and I don't know that it doesn't feel. Y'all tell me if I'm wrong. It doesn't feel like ego.
Ego also doesn't have to be a pejorative every time.
Okay, that's
if
fair.
we were to look at ego neutrally, that a person has ego, a Beyonce has ego, and she turns it on the stage, right?
Yeah.
Such
Sasha
and such.
Fierce. That's Sasha Fierce.
Yeah,
yes.
but that's right. So an alter ego.
Yeah.
But which we recognize and we appreciate when that alter ego shows up. But for some reason, in leadership and in ambition and in who's in front of the room, ambition then takes on a negative turn. And I think the real and more importantly, ego. What has to be checked about it is its size. What has to be checked about it is when you're walking into a certain place to be world aware enough to know that you may not be the most seasoned, experienced, well-read and prepared person there. That means you have to relent to that where it shows up, but also to stand your ground when it has gone wrong. One of the things that I really hate is when folks show up, and I said this on our mini pod that we did a couple of weeks ago, where folks, it's like, we said it last week. Welcome us into the room as young people. And then my response partly was, it fit with the universal theme. My response is, when you get in there, though, you got to show some deference to the folks who have been there for 20 years working.
Can you say it again? Can you say it again?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I default in so many ways in those spaces to a staffer. You wouldn't think I've ever run for anything in my life, or that I want you to have your coffee and your water, that you are as comfortable as you can be, because you were in this fight, in this struggle when it wasn't popular. There was no hashtag to it. There was no currency, public currency for being involved. In fact, it came it came with all the risks and consequences that are negative, but you did it. You stood then. Who am I to suppose?
Yeah.
With all the rights you didn't have, that I can walk into this space and then disrupt it and tell you that you've been doing it wrong.
And that's the thing that it frustrates me, because we do assume, like, we've been studying Gary, Indiana a lot. 1972, there's a documentary. Did I tell y'all about this documentary? Called Nation Time, that really examines everything they did for the National Black Political Convention. And I think that a lot of us have gone through a season at some point in our lives where we're like, I know what it is. They just didn't have this right. That's not always what it is.
That's right.
That's not always what it is. Right. And Gary Coleman Young, who later becomes the mayor of Detroit, walked his whole delegation out because they disagreed on a labor issue and approach. So I'm just saying right now, this is not the era where we can disagree on approach and the thing falls apart and the thing crumbles. Our ability to thrive in this moment, our ability to survive really at this moment has to move tactics aside. We have to try multiple tactics and still be together. I'm going to use a very controversial example right now. Target. Target. So last week, I don't know when y'all gonna watch this. Tiff is mad at me. Just recently.
Yes. You said it right last week.
Oh, okay, I can say that. But it really was last week. So Tiff is gonna be like, say last month.
No, last week.
Recently, Al Sharpton met with the Target CEO. He put up a post with him in the picture with the Target CEO, Franklin Richardson, who's his board chair, and one of his advisors. And people were relentless. They went off on him. How dare you do this? Blah, 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 blah. Jamal Bryant later shared that he was in that meeting, actually. But people, including me, were upset that Jamal wasn't there, but Jamal was there. And so I'm bringing this up as an example of something. Reverend Al's tactics are different. His tactics are, when I'm doing something, I'm going to tell you all, because I want, in his mind, I want to be accountable to the people so that you know what I've done. That is a tactic. There are civil rights leaders, including Reverend Jackson, who embrace that tactic. There are others who think that if you advertise what you've done, it's an endorsement, or it says that now, don't worry, y'all, I got it, we're good. Yeah. And that's an approach, right? And there's broad disagreement on which way is right or wrong. Either one could be right or wrong.
I was going to ask, do you have an opinion on which one is right or wrong?
I think the thing that I would, and I feel bad because I have not talked to him about this, I would invite him into considering everything not needing to be in the press, especially when the deal is not struck. I don't know that my approach is right. I think that there are people who see that and they get energized by him posting, like, oh, look, we won a battle, so now maybe we could win the war. Yeah. Like, I get that. But I also think that our tactics have to be more sophisticated. Like, there are young business leaders that I would invite into those conversations because they talk to those leaders at those corporations in ways that I don't.
Right.
I think that maybe there shouldn't be one at the table, or just two, because there were four, but like have different types of people at the table for those 100%. Meetings. Anyway.
Well, I had a challenge, I'll say.
Yeah.
Because it looked like a win for Target. Like, you got this picture, you got to go promote it. I will say this about Rev. He invited me to join him on his radio show weekly, where we would talk politics and help me build a following. During my time at MSNBC, I think he tried to be helpful while I was there, and extended himself to me. So I appreciate that from Reverend Sharpton. I just want to be very transparent about that. I also want to be very transparent about the fact that there is this perception that Reverend Sharpton is a leader in Black America. He is a leader, yes. There's a very tiny sect of Black America who follows the steps of Reverend Sharpton. I do not believe, or I won't say I believe, I know that he does not lead the masses. as he once did.
Well, who does though?
That's my point.
Okay.
We are a leaderless movement. To your point, we're a leaderless movement at this point. There is no, back in the day, pre-Twitter and, Instagram, we had 5 to 10 leaders. And even all the leaders didn't get shine. Dr. Dorothy Height was a member at that table. She did not always get her shine.
Yeah.
There are a lot of women in the movement, Black women in the movement, who did not get the shine. Right. Of national leadership. So when you think of civil rights, who you think of? Dr. King and Malcolm X. That's the first 2. And it's not really like that anymore. Well, there's a ton that we probably think of, but you ask your average person.
Reverend Jackson.
Yes. Well, Reverend Jackson was post, but I think they were
Andy
post civil post Jim Crow. Post civil rights, like they came up, like they were under the tutelage, right? Exactly. Yeah. But we could name 100. But I'm saying like this, the people you think of are Dr. King and Malcolm X, who had different approaches. Stokely was under them and had an issue with how they were leading. So my point is, because a lot of people had comments about that, and I think we do have leaders who are loyal to power, and loyal to brand. And so I think by posting a picture like that people took that, like, what did you specifically get out of this meeting?
Yeah.
Did they write you or National Action Network a check? And even if they did, like whatever, I don't know what deal was struck, but those were questions and comments that people were asking. And I think to avoid that, to really be of the people, it does take employing some different tactics.
Yeah.
I don't think this is moving with ego. Y'all are telling me, if you have an issue with someone's tactics, it might be ego. I humbly say I don't mean it in ego, but I'm open to you all correcting me if I'm wrong.
The only thing though, Tiff, here is I feel like
Angela's not crying, by the way.
I'm definitely not crying. I just have no voice. I'm sorry. I should talk quieter and it'll be more soothing.
It's sexy and waspy.
I know this is my Andrew voice.
Somebody's getting it on. Somebody's getting it on.
The quiet storm.
Yeah. Somebody's riding
Hey,
with
everybody.
that.
I just want you to know.
Hey.
That's how Andrew normally sounds. But I was going to say, I think that one conundrum that I do feel, and where I felt for Rev in that moment, is there are whole conversations that are had and people make a decision off of what they see in the picture and develop a narrative. Because all they have is what you said and the image. They don't have a readout from the meeting. And sometimes you can't really do that because you got to keep things moving. So I felt for him a little bit because there was a whole narrative that was shared based on that. Now, the part that I didn't feel for was if you didn't put it out.
Right.
Because there were several other civil rights orgs that had met with Target before and none of us knew. Mm-hmm. So as the story began to unfurl, it was like, that's fine. I don't see anything wrong with that. But the masses don't always know that.
Right.
So I'm also curious to know, how much do we tell the people if we also can say, if we agree with Prince, that Black folks are the only one that put our whole strategy up on a website? Mm-hmm. What parts of this should we keep to ourselves while we allow the thing to unfurl in our favor? I don't know.
All of it until
don't
the
put the
deal is
picture up
done.
either.
Yeah, you don't.
You're saying keep all of it to ourselves?
At levels
How
of
do we get people engaged?
Movement shifting. So the call was put out to the people, and the people have responded. Mm-hmm. For the 10th consecutive week, foot traffic down by over 9% in Target stores across the country. That has been since the start of the announced boycott, and they're backtracking on DEI. We know that there is an impact being had because there would not have been a call to Reverend Sharpton or anybody else to come step foot at Target headquarters were this not landing in some way or another.
They met at NAN.
At NAN, which either or, doesn't matter. Because if the currency is, we all know this, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Nobody knows it better than Reverend Sharpton himself. Nobody knows it better. What I have to believe is that there is a strategy that is not known to me and us, that has to be underway, because I don't think Reverend Sharpton would have gifted what is a big piece of the currency for being at the table, which is the image that says 1,000 words in the midst of a protest that's been going on for 9 weeks rather successfully, here comes this new inflection. Why did it happen? It starts to chatter. The company can use it any way they want, quite frankly.
Yes.
They can image that however they choose to. You stood
That's
for
my
the
challenge with
photo,
it.
and now it can be used to suggest some things that may not have been right. But who read the fine line to determine that wasn't right? So all I would just say is,
what if he released it? I'm not saying this is true, but what if he released it before they did? Maybe they should have said no pictures allowed.
That's what I would have. You don't get to use me as a photo.
Is there a reason why Jamal
op.
Bryant is not in a photo, or is he in a photo?
He's not. He's not
There's a
in a
reason.
released photo. I don't know if
there is
are
a
any
reason
other
why
photos.
Pastor Bishop, as I call
Yeah.
him, Jamal Bryant is not in a published photo.
Yeah.
Because his understanding of the assignment was, we can see where we are. We should keep in touch around how you all are moving back toward this commitment and these benchmarks. And so we've got to be in communication, open discussion about that. But there will not be an announcement around us sitting down until there's an agreement to be signed.
Yeah.
And there's still no agreement. So
There's none of that. There's
Right.
nothing there, but there is a photo. So what I'm saying is I have to believe, given Rev's life experience, his know-how through this thing. I mean, I've watched these things being played in real time with certain speakers can come up on the stage,
Yeah.
but you must have done such and such and such to be one of them.
You know a lot about this behind the scenes work that you're
Yeah,
not saying
which I won't
strategically
say.
that
Yeah,
you're
of
not saying,
course.
which I can appreciate.
Because
You know
because
what
there
I
are
think is
things
not
that
fair?
happen behind the scenes. And by the way, the masses shouldn't be charged with following hook, line, sinker every step here. The call has gone out to us and we're doing our part. While that's happening, I have to assume that organizers on the inside are doing their part and they're not acting recklessly in doing so because they're carrying on their shoulder, they're carrying our purse. The reason why you're in the room is because they believe you're negotiating on behalf of our purse.
And I don't know that the people felt like the masses may not have felt like Reverend Sharpton was negotiating on their behalf. And we don't know because I wasn't at the meeting. I don't know what was
Because
said.
I think the masses probably absorb what we absorb. Is that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and you don't give a
It's
picture
just
without.
but they got more out of it. It looks like on the surface that
Correct.
they got more. Target got
Correct.
more out of that photo
Correct.
than the people did. They haven't changed anything. They haven't met any demands.
There was a
Well,
reason why I
here's
did
the-
not go and have breakfast with my opponent after the race, despite an invitation, because I knew, based off the race that we ran, that we had diametrically opposed views and positions about the direction of the state. What I'm not going to do is heal over or bridge over anyone who is in support of me by imaging myself next to you as if
Yeah.
I'm in, or that it's okay.
I think that was the right decision to me.
let me just ask this though. Why do we expect, there are people who use as a tactic the bully pulpit or a bullhorn. Our friend and brother Ben Crump is that way. He tries cases first in the court of public opinion. So just like all of us, our flat side is also our gift. So I think the thing that I'm wrestling with too and trying to give grace for in this moment is like the thing that we normally, families call Reverend Al into their communities to help lift up when their kids have been shot and killed.
No doubt about it.
So when there's an issue with our community and a company calls him to do the thing, I'm trying to figure out why we would expect that he would do something different.
I think people largely feel that his fidelity, his fealty, is always going to be to us first. I think that's what folks believe, and really to avoid the trappings of sort of going down the rat hole around any one individual.
Yeah,
leader.
not just Reverend Ben,
that's why
Jamal,
I just want to broaden it out just
right?
a little to make sure that
Nina's
it's clear.
also involved.
We're talking about styles. Of going
Exactly,
about doing a thing,
tactics.
styles of going about doing a things. And, there are going to be tactics, and sometimes they're just tools that we're picking up along the way and are utilizing. But there are no giveaways in movement and in organizing. Everything must be hard fought and won. The corporation moves as if they are not moving at all. They move, as the hermits in the space. They aren't making dramatic steps because they don't want you to believe or that it is possible for your dramatic demands to ever be met. So they move slow, and that these are difficult and hard. This is hard. And so we've got to decouple this, that, and the third. And they use these words, this language that is intended to turn the rest of the public off, like this is above my pay grade. I need to step out of the conversation. When the reality is, no, it's as plain as day as you know it to be.
Yeah.
You have workers who deserve to be paid a wage that they can live on, pay their bills, and maybe take a vacation every once in a while. And you are single-handedly stopping that from happening because you're worried or more concerned about a stock price and a stock split for your shareholders than you are about the customers who are powering you.
Well, this is my challenge, though, with what the scenario you laid out. I've spent a very brief amount of time, I feel like a fish out of water, on the funding side of things. And there is often the ROI for these meetings is very small. And so I think there is danger. Both the people and sometimes the organization. I was on behalf of a labor organization, so I'm dealing with like teachers' paycheck, their income. Mm-hmm. So sometimes the ROI wasn't big enough. But I would say there is a danger in a company like Target feeling like we're in trouble with the Black community. Let us call Reverend Sharpton.
They call him because he has evidence that he can mobilize people.
I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm going off the example that you gave specifically.
Okay. Yeah, because they called everybody.
Right. But you said a corporation will call. So I'm not saying that's what, to be clear,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that is what happened in this specific instance with Rev.
I got you.
I'm saying there is a challenge when a company feels like, I got a problem with Black folks. Let me call Reverend Sharpton.
I think they do it because he has a demonstrated.
But I have a challenge with that too, and let me
tell you why.
He's got demonstrated
experience in moving people.
Yes,
and if you can move people, there's power.
Can I tell you why though?
Yes,
I have a problem.
Please.
My challenge is the people are not always with Rev. The people were not always with Reverend Jackson. They're not always with Reverend Sharpton. I've never been somewhere with a bunch of Black folks and they're like, oh, it's 6:00, y'all. We got to get to our NAACP meeting. I think these things can be regional. In Jackson, Mississippi, the NAACP has a huge presence.
Got a huge one here where we are in Miami.
In Miami. In
Atlanta. County.
In Washington, D.C., they do not. In Cleveland, Ohio, they do not. In Los Angeles, they do not.
They do.
No. In
yes,
LA,
they do.
NAACP.
Yes, they do.
So when I talk to folks who are impacted by the fires recently,
maybe not in Altadena.
So maybe I should say Altadena.
Yeah.
But even Black folks in LA, but they could be different people.
And the NAA actually was on the ground regularly during the fires. But I'm listening.
There was no connection from the people I talked to. People, you know these folks too. But also, the people I talk to in LA are also more on the entertainment side, so it could be a disconnect there.
They go to the image awards though.
Yeah, precisely.
There's a Hollywood bureau, so that's Hollywood. That's different from the hood.
Only right. Yeah, that's my point. Sometimes the people who are, they're not a part of an organization. Yeah. They're not Divine Nine. They don't Summer on the Vineyard. Like they don't feel a connection to these organizations all the time. And so when corporations feel like I'm gonna pluck this one Negro from the bunch and get a picture with him, give some money to his or her organization, check the box, and then I'm done. Problem solved. And I can see the disconnect between the rank and file people of society who feel like, well, what happened? Yeah. I've been going out of my way to shop at these mom and pops, driving all over town.
Heck yeah.
And then this one thing happens and I'm supposed to be all good with it. There is a disconnect in that.
That's true.
So I also think that sometimes corporations and organizations will tap Black people who make them comfortable. When really,
now why you got a cough over here?
I was trying to get into my arm.
He went like that.
But it's this way.
Go this way, Andrew, because it's more okay.
Nasty.
Andrew just
pardon me, please, Father.
He does that every week.
Pardon
you got
me,
a cough,
Father
right?
God. Germs, ghosts.
I do not like germs.
Anyway, my point is, I didn't forgot my dang point, but
you were
I
saying,
coughed.
Yeah, you did.
And Jesus wept.
What time is it? We gotta go.
It's some danger in feeling like one person. We have time. It's some danger in it's some danger in having one person and
Agreed.
think. And when you find the black person that makes you comfortable, sometimes you need to find a black person that makes you uncomfortable.
Why would you do that if you're the business and you're...
This is my point. And these businesses are not ever really going to fund or create something that is in our favor. They are not going to fund something that services our liberation. They will be funding their demise. They would be funding their demise either way. Even if it wasn't it. I mean, you look at George Floyd.
Yeah.
Like all those businesses, it was billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Around 90 million went to actual justice organizations. The bulk of that money went to like for-profit things.
Didn't happen.
Right. But even the money that was
gifting themselves.
It was like JP Morgan Chase gave a lot of money, and most of it went to things that would service their company, that would profit them.
Yeah.
So even when you look into the money that did exchange hands,
true.
it did not service the people. So I fully understand when the people out there look at that picture or look at any of this and they see this person who, especially we remember Rev from in them tracksuits, honey, going uptown, downtown, ready to get buck. Yeah. Like, we remember that Rev. They may only know Suited and Booted Rev with a show on MSNBC Rev, who got invited to the Obama White House Rev. But Rev used to be about it.
I think he is about it. I think there's the reason why he is in the room. One, the ability to mobilize. But two, there are certain people. But
does he have the ability to mobilize?
He does.
Let's be real.
He does.
He's a mobilizer.
He's done it many times in my own city.
Yeah, he's a mobilizer
Tallahassee
for sure.
on behalf, with Ben, separate from him, all around the country. There's a reason he gets called in to eulogize nearly every high-profile murder, death
and
at the hands of law
there are a lot of
enforcement
people in our community that think that he just swoops in. Those families call him.
Yeah.
So I know, I'm aware of that. That is
nobody
true.
If you ain't
when it comes to like shootings and death and all that,
but that creates a profile of death, and it creates an energy, and it suggests to people that that's a guy who we could go to. If our problem's black people, there's a list of 5 we could talk to, and this is what they could do.
They've also tapped into Rev to talk about black maternal mortality. And it's like, this is the laziest shit I've seen in my life.
And but so you know what it means to fight against that strain of journalism that says there's only one who can talk about this, that will do it and be received by the people on the outer end. What Rev does, and not just Rev, but when our leaders show up, again, in these images and how they navigate the world when we're in protests, creates a permission structure for a group of people to do likewise. So the image of a Rev then makes it okay if Ken Chenault and following him...
former CEO of American Express.
Right, I'm sorry, yes. Or Kathy Hughes or TV. Tyler Perry. Should they choose to then say, that the reason why you saw me in that TMZ clip coming out of Target is because I thought the whole thing was all resolved. I mean, Rev went in, met with him, such and such and such. That's the shorthand. Mm-hmm. That's without ever explaining anything. The reason why power has to be coveted the way that it does, what we do have when we're talking about our negotiating strength at the table. The reason why a picture can't go out unless there is a higher demand that has been met that we might not be privy to, but you need to bring us to speed right now because this looks like a betrayal.
I don't know, y'all. I feel like there's some disconnect there.
There may be, but that's the expectation.
We're not monolithic. And so the challenge is, like, there are people, I think especially some of our elders, that see that and think that was a good negotiating tactic. There are others that think, and regardless of age, that think, now why did he do that? He just want to be in the front.
And then there are others who haven't interrogated one way or another, because it's Rev, he must be up there for us. Whatever it is.
That was my first example.
Yes.
And guess what? It is his life's work that has gotten him the benefit of the doubt.
I'm going to say, and I will welcome the pushback, I'm going to say there may be even disconnect with you all and some of the people. Because I'm talking to like regular ass people in LA who do not feel connected to the NAACP.
But when have we, in the masses, we've never felt connected.
So then maybe.
Until we need them.
So then.
Say it again.
But who is so there is not, if it's a leaderless movement, I'm saying there are community validators
I don't think
in some of these inner cities, like some of the hoods that are not, student people.
Of course.
Right. But those people are leaders to them.
Sure. But I think that the danger that we have right now is saying that we're a leaderless movement. I don't think that's true. I think that I think that there are pockets of us who have varying leaders.
That's true. I mean, there's no singular leader.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like, of course.
That's a better way to say
There are
that.
Black people who see 19 Keys as their guy. There are Black people who see Earn Your Leisure as their guy. Killer Mike is their guy. Joy is their gal. You is their, like what Tamika Mallory, who Beyonce calls out in a song. So there are a bunch of different people that we can go to for different things. NAACP chapters, especially Derek. Like there are members of Congress who people are like, I don't know who that is. But Maxine, they won't even call her Congresswoman because she's different to them.
That's true.
So I just think that
I
the
bet
argument
Jasmine Crockett is calls from all over the country.
Yeah,
Congresswoman, I need you to
but
get my check.
the
That's a
thing
good
that
point.
I'm just
It's
raising
not leaderless.
is I'm not saying that that the NAA or the Urban League or NAN or National Bar Association or whatever else is making major strides with every aspect of our community. I am saying they have their pockets, and in some of those pockets, they have strongholds. And I think it would be ignorant of us to say that that doesn't exist. Now, the thing that I can say, again, another shameless plug for the Power Tour, is almost all of these organizations, we don't have NAN on, but almost all of these organizations have come together to say, and individuals, we have to come together now. Because if we don't start, both the folks who don't subscribe to organizational leadership, those individuals, or this pocket that focuses on civics or Black Voters Matter or whatever, we all got to come together because right now we're all a target regardless of who we think our leader is.
That is the truth.
That's the point.
Remember the guy in Atlanta who stood up? I felt like he was a great example. And let me just be clear, because I think Angela, you make a good point and a solid correction. It is incorrect to say we are a leaderless movement or that we are leaderless right now. It's just that it's not a singular leader, and there are multiple people in positions of leadership who have come together for this work. I want to push back a little on this whole idea that everybody's resting. There's a lot of work. Yeah, it's a lot of work happening. Angela lost her voice because she is not resting. Even as discouraged as I am, I'm not resting. I got a huge time deficit.
Very few people.
Right, exactly. So if you hear somebody say that, they probably just not really connected with the people of the movement, and I want y'all to feel encouraged about that. But I think to your point about it's pockets of leadership. The guy in Atlanta, we did our live show there, and he stood up and he was like, I got my YNs doing this. He seemed like somebody who was a bit disconnected from these like big organizations. But he said, I love LaTosha Brown like a fat kid love cake. And I think LaTosha's a good example of she is aware and does work, but she's also very connected with those grassroots people who, might not have, even her organization, Black Voters Matter, they're not coming in there saying we need a 20-page ROI filled out and lawyers to look. They like, tell about your program and we're going to give you some money to help fund it. And I think she has a good connection with those folks. And on the State of the People tour, which kicks off Sunday in Atlanta, Saturday in Atlanta, like I said.
Be there.
Saturday, April 26th in Atlanta. Angela will be there. Joy will be there. Tamika will be there. Tamika Mallory will be there. Joy Reid, Tamika Mallory, LaTosha Brown.
Else who's gonna be there.
Come to see everybody. It's going to be a ton of folks. Arian Simone, all the people. It's going to be a lot of people there at these different stops, and they can go to State of the People Tour.
State of the People.
Just Google State of the People Tour.
State of the PPL though, because domains.com. Stateoftheppl.com.
Go to Native Land. It's in the written notes for about the last 7 shows.
Yes,
that's true.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But I do feel like this tour is pulling in all the people, and you have said like you believe in organizing by addition. So all the people who, you may agree with me, disagree with me, you may agree with Angela and Andrew, no matter how you feel, all of these people are at the same table right now.
Almost,
yes. Almost.
Bringing their talents.
Right, bringing their talents.
And their resources, their time, talent, and treasure.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a hard thing.
Yeah.
But it's good.
But even I think we probably all have different approaches. And different understanding. You lived in LA and you're like, no, NAACP has a huge presence. I'm only talking to other people who lived there who didn't feel the presence. I would have said in Florida, I don't know how big NAACP, but you're saying no, here they are, have a big presence. So
what I say about a lot of those legacy groups is if we had to do a popularity, like name recognition, across the board, these are folks who would have brand name ID within our community. And they're almost always the default place people want to go when they don't feel like they're getting what they need from the system.
That's right.
If they're being, wrecked over, being
Discrimination.
ignored, not seen, can't get a complaint call returned. The first, and it's clockwork because it's muscle memory. Folks are like, we need to call, what is the NAACP doing? That's when I hear the most criticism about the NAACP and the most praise. As in somebody's moment of personal crisis, because it is the 911.
Yeah.
First thing.
And so for a lot of people, whether it's
in
regional
Jackson,
or national,
even when it's not a crisis, in Jackson, the NAACP is a breathing,
they've got
living
great
entity.
Historic reason to be big, loud, and proud. In the country, they have legacy.
Yeah.
And hold our history in
the
this.
young man Ty
land.
was he kind of came for them last week.
Oh, he did.
Remember that? He was like, we saying NAACP, like he was basically saying the young people don't feel connected to them. One, because of the name.
People in it. I'm learning
they
that.
have young, but no one's saying it's no young
true.
people,
Yeah.
and a lot of young
Universally,
people
it's
is
not what
relative when you consider all the young people.
Yeah.
If
that's
it's
fair.
1,000 young people in there, that's a very small amount.
But the
when
marker
you consider
shouldn't be that versus how we show up in other spaces as well.
I agree.
So by percentage, they're punching outside their weight. There's no doubt about it. Their legacy has afforded them the ability to box up, basically. I mean, they take on administration, they take on presidents, they take on, courts, they take on systems.
And there's a difference, I think, in between NAACP and NAACP LDF. Like the way the stuff that the LDF is doing, they're very out front. And NAACP is out front on some things.
The NAACP piece is where the people at. The lawyers are at, and by the way, this is not a dichotomy. We need them both.
I think that's what Angela's point. Like, we need all hands on deck. And I'll be honest about my own disconnect, where I feel disconnected. You talked about some of who are leaders for some people, and you said 19 Keys. I have never heard of 19 Keys in my life until about 2 weeks ago. It was some controversy around him. So I feel incredibly disconnected from some of the more pop culture leaders, from some of these Instagram philosophizers, It's like, I don't really know who they are. I've never, and I still, if 19 Keys walked in here right now, I wouldn't know it was him.
The good news
I couldn't point him out in the
I'm
lineup.
assuming 19 Keys probably has thousands, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of followers, maybe millions.
Yeah.
Oh, he's like a celebrity, I suppose.
So
but I still can't tell you anything about him.
Or whatnot.
It's like mostly Black empowerment, focusing on our economics.
If there are millions of us out there that are willing to dial in because somebody's talking about our future economic health as a community, and that moves them, I say they're a credit to what we ought to be doing now.
That's right.
So again, I don't know a lot of these folks. I mean, you got to explain most. Anyway,
I literally decided to dive in after the election.
Choice.
Yeah,
because for me, I want to know, it does not behoove me, in service to our people, to think that my way is the only way. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous. I want to be able to reach the people you reach and hear what you're saying, to reach them, and I want to figure out how we can work in tandem to do that.
I want to reach the people I can reach.
We're gonna wrap soon, but I have a question for you, because I think this gets into when there's real disagreement. So what if somebody hears you say that and they say, but Angela, Byron Donalds, for example,
he has a white district, a white following.
Somebody who is a supporter of Byron Donalds and MAGA. And they're saying, but you're saying you don't have an ego. And I think there is the right way. I think MAGA is doing some things.
They are.
And I think this is, I think there is strategy in getting behind MAGA and being on the inside and trying to help our people becoming a part of this, I call it a cult.
Yeah.
How would you feel?
Sure. Maybe it is a strategy, and he can keep that strategy the hell away from me.
Yeah.
Because he gonna strategize us right into the belly of a slave ship.
Yeah.
So if they want to follow that, they are welcome. He is not welcome anywhere where I am. I'm happy to have a conversation.
I don't think it's no strategy. And I wouldn't have a conversation.
I would have I mean, he's in elected office. He's running for governor. I'm happy to have the conversation. But I want to have a conversation rooted in facts. And if he can't do that, I don't want to talk.
The big difference for me is that when you see Black folks who compromise over there.
Let me tell you this real quick. I wanted to have Tim Scott on because there's this piece out about, did Tim Scott squander his minority business agenda attaching to MAGA? That's a conversation I want to have. Because
Tim Scott wants to
historically,
come on, I'd love to have it.
right? Historically, at least there were some pieces around his economic agenda that I think we could agree on. Same thing probably with Byron Donalds. But like, tell me what happens when you don't think about your Jamaican grandparents as all this stuff is going down, right? Like, I have some fundamental questions.
Tim Scott will never come on this show, but Senator Scott, we would love to have you.
welcome.
You're welcome home here. We'd love to hear from you,
Welcome.
Senator Scott. Anyway, I just wanted to ask that because sometimes the tactics and strategies are so far over here that I can't get with it. And I wanted to be transparent about my own disconnect and just things I don't know, you know? Like the people I talk to don't represent everybody, but I just know some people who don't feel connected.
But when they hear you, they may feel themselves heard, seen, and represented. I think it is important to be curious about what we don't know and what we haven't experienced. And the way I exercise it is by trying to take away the value judgment on whatever it is and just deal with the thing I do or don't know or want to find out and want to know better. Because it stops a lot of us from engaging in certain ideas and accepting certain truths when we can't get past the judgment we have of the source by which is coming through. And if that becomes the order of the day, and it has already in so many pockets of our society, that what I think about you is what you are. What I think about the work you do is exactly what it is. And there's an absence of any curiosity around like, I thought y'all were burning babies in there. I read that on an email. You know, it's like we're turning people off right there. And I would just dare people to choose to be more curious and less judging about what's different.
We have
Our takeaways.
We have
Overcome.
I just forgot
What we're doing here?
Yes, I was about to say something and my thought was interrupted. One, can our producer off camera go get our guest? I would like to invite the guest on, please. Thank you. Anyway, while he gets the guest, can I surprise the audience?
I didn't say a dog.
Both of y'all, I heard you say you could have just been quiet and let the audience.
Everybody knows if you offer a random guest on, it's gonna be a dog. Let me pet that dog. I want to pet that dog.
We have a guest
ASPCA
joining us. Okay.
President.
Oh my goodness.
Here she goes.
So
Yes.
we have a
Watch
special
how
guest
her voice
joining us.
changes.
We're the
We
three
played
guests.
her. We
Watch
played
how
her
her voice
talent.
changes. Watch.
Oh, God.
So good.
This
would
is
not
our
be the
sweet
time
little
to
baby.
What if
turn
that
off
dog
if
better? Let me
you
pet that dog.
No,
easily
Why
annoyed.
is the dog shaking, Tiff?
Because she was just carried in here.
Tiffany,
And now she's okay.
Tiffany said,
About to lick her in the
pee
mouth.
on me earlier.
She didn't pee on me, but
No, she didn't.
No, she asked.
It's okay, baby.
Don't say,
It's
oh!
okay, baby.
She licked her in the mouth. She licked her in the
Yes.
mouth. Oh, she licked her in the
Do it
mouth.
for the camera,
She
sweet
didn't
girl.
lick,
Do
she
it for the
almost
camera,
got me.
sweet
She
girl.
almost got me.
She licked her right in the
She's
mouth.
a sweet little baby.
She licked the mic.
she's
She licked her right in the
She's
mouth.
a sweet little baby.
Oh.
She's so spoiled. If you're not constantly petting her, she's petting you. Anyway, my CTA is be
This
kind.
dog loved Tiff.
Be kind to
Loving her.
animals. They are furry friends.
She
And
is
look at this
getting it
sweet little girl.
on.
I like pit bulls. Y'all know they're
I
my
think she
favorite
copping the
dogs.
field. I'm not real sure what's
She
happening here, but
She
is-
is like just a needy dog. She's spoiled.
She
you
literally
look like
licked
the
her in the
studio
mouth.
dog.
You need a needy dog.
I want a pit bull. They're my babies. But she's so cute. I just wanted her to
She
join
about
the
to
show for a
expose Tiff. She trying to breastfeed.
second. No.
Give me your takeaway. What's your
What's your call to action?
call to action?
I'm just astonished. Did y'all hear Tiff's doggy voice? Tiff, do it. That is nuts. Anyway, my call to action is
Say to
gonna
the
be-
people, baby, if you're in the ATL, come on
Pretty
out.
much.
Don't talk about it. Be about it.
What time? Where did they go?
we've been saying we're doing 10 cities, but it's technically 12 because we split up Raleigh, Durham, and Birmingham and Montgomery. Is that 11 or 12? Anyway,
When it comes to the month.
we are going to be starting in Atlanta with community service.
Love
We
that.
are helping to pack boxes for seniors and kids. On Saturday morning at 9. We will also be giving books with those boxes.
What books?
Some band books.
I love it.
On a Pet That Dog book.
Yeah, I love it.
Got
And so
18,
but we want you to
16,
register.
19 children's.
We want you to
illustrated
register
edition.
right away at stateoftheppl.com. From there, we have a rally Sunday, and then we go to Durham, and then to Raleigh. We're going to rally in Raleigh.
A rally in Raleigh.
I love it.
I'm just fascinated by this dog situation. Want to pet that dog?
She's so spoiled.
Girl, tell us how many election days.
No, I
until,
want Angela to say when she's getting rest.
You know that's a
Hopefully soon. I'm going to tell you guys honestly. The tour.
Oh, I think she's liking you.
Hi, friend.
I think she's
Hi,
liking
friend.
you.
Hi, friend.
I know
Hi,
you like the
friend.
nip. I know you
She
like the nip.
don't like you. Look. She don't. Oh, she does like you.
does.
She wants pets from everybody.
Hello, sweets.
My hands is up.
Don't play down there now.
Don't get her. It's okay. The people can see you. This is her dad, you guys. He's gonna get her. Look, she's like, I'm getting pets. Anyway, sorry you guys who don't have the privilege of seeing this beautiful dog if you're just listening. But she's so cute. She's sweet. She's not a schizophrenic
I was about to
cat.
say this schizophrenic cat.
You know?
Well, you're touching me so.
Yeah, she's so spoiled. You can tell she's spoiled because she needs pets all the time. But that's Angela's call to action.
We've done ours.
Yeah, we
I'm
did
sorry,
ours.
baby.
Angela, can you tell them how many days?
Andrew,
Bye, sweet pea.
Oh,
we have.
how many
Yeah.
days?
Are we gonna have midterms is the question.
We will have midterms.
I don't know if we're gonna
and
have
they're
it.
coming.
558 days
From
until
now.
midterm elections.
That's when they're coming.
Welcome home, y'all.
Welcome home, everybody.
Thank you for joining the natives. Intentional with the info on all of the latest. Rod, Gillum, and Cross connected to the statements that you leave on our socials. Thank you sincerely for the patience. Reason for your choice is clear. We're so grateful. Took the oath to execute roles. Yeah, faithful. Preserve, defend, and protect the truth, even if painful. Welcome home to all of the natives. We thank you.
Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.